A mule once got banned from a jumping competition for being too good. Now that's not actually a myth at all, and it's actually a pretty funny story, but we'll get to that later. More importantly, I'm willing to bet that the final myth on this list, myth number 1, will forever change the way you think about these animals. I'm Jason, welcome to Mountain Built. We've worked with mules for years in the harshest mountain conditions, and today we're counting down the top 7 myths about these incredible animals. Some are true, some are totally false, and one of them could actually get you hurt if you believe it. Let's start with the myth that shocks many people, and that's myth number 7, that mules are sterile. Now this one's actually true, but the science behind it is wild. Here's what most people don't know. You can't breed a mule to get another mule. Instead, you breed a female horse with a male donkey to create these hybrids. But why can't they reproduce themselves? It's all about chromosomes. Horses have 64, donkeys have 62, and when you cross them, the mule ends up with 63. Now that odd number means the chromosomes can't pair up properly during reproduction, making mules sterile. Now you might have heard stories about female mules having foals, and technically there are rare cases. But here's the kicker. Most of these turned out to be fraud. People were transplanting fertilized embryos into female mules, and when DNA tests were run, the foal and the birth mother shared 0 genetic material. That being said, there are a couple very rare cases where a female mule actually gave birth to its own foal. We actually shared one of these stories in our YouTube shorts, about a year ago, and that video got a lot of attention. But sterility isn't the craziest myth on this list. Myth number 6 will make you rethink everything you know about riding. Myth number 6 is that mules cannot be ridden. Now this one is complete nonsense, and here's why. Not only can mules be ridden, but they're absolutely dominant in some competitive disciplines. Trail riding, dressage, jumping, mules have the ability to crush it in all these events. Let me give you a couple examples that'll blow your mind. The first example is about a dressage mule named Wallace. Wallace was competing in dressage in the UK at Summerhouse Equestrian, and he actually beat out 8 horses to win the dressage competition. Yep, that's right, a mule beat trained dressage horses. Now the second example is one of my favorite examples. It's about a mule named Hamilton T. Bone, or Hambone for short. Now Hambone was an army mule, and he made a name for himself by smoking a bunch of thoroughbred horses at local, state, and even national jumping competitions. He really hit the big time in 1949, and it stirred up so much controversy that he ended up getting banned from competition after winning in the previous year. Why did he get banned? Well, I think it was because folks couldn't handle a mule beating their expensive, well-bred horses. One of my favorite quotes from this ordeal was regarding Hambone, and they said, "Hambone came from exquisite breeding. He had a wonderful mare for a mother. Unfortunately, his father was a jack." Now let's talk a little bit about the famed Grand Canyon mules. These mules are the go-to mount for transporting visitors safely up and down the steep trails. Their sure-footedness, calm demeanor, and natural balance make them incredibly reliable partners for this rough country. But there's something interesting about a mule's vision. And this brings us to myth number 5, which is partially true and explains a lot about mule behavior. Myth number 5 is that mules see all 4 feet better than horses. This one is a fact. Sort of. Mules can see all 4 feet better than horses, but not for the reason that you think. Mules do have a slightly wider field of view than horses, and that's thanks to their donkey parents. But all equines, horses, mules, and donkeys have unique eyesight that works completely different from our vision. Here's what's happening. Their eyes are positioned on the side of their heads, giving them nearly 360-degree panoramic vision. But they have 2 blind spots. The first one is right in front of their nose and slightly below it. The second one is directly behind the equine, and that's why you never walk up to an animal from straight behind when they're unsuspecting. But here's the catch. Equines actually have extremely poor depth perception. This is because their eyes are on the side of their heads. They struggle to judge distances. That's why they hesitate at streams, shadows, or other obstacles. It's not stubbornness. They're processing what they see to make sure it's safe. So while mules have a slight advantage in field of view, it's not enough to make a huge difference when it comes to seeing their feet. Now myth number 4 is where things get dangerous. Because this one is true, and understanding it could save your dog's life. Myth number 4, mules are dog stompers. This one, sadly, is a fact. Now mules do have a reputation for stomping dogs, but they're not the only equines that do it. Horses do it as well, and donkeys do it as well. All equines, from zebras all the way to horses, can be aggressive towards smaller animals. This includes dogs, cats, ours even will try and stomp a chicken every now and then. It's a natural defense mechanism. In the wild, fast-moving animals could be predators, so equines are hardwired to protect themselves by stomping, kicking, or even striking. That said, not every mule is a dog stomper. We successfully trail ride our mules with our dogs. The key is introducing them carefully and teaching your mule that aggressive behavior towards dogs is not tolerated while you're present. But here's the critical part. We keep our dogs safe by teaching them to stay out of fields and pens while the mules are present. If you own equines and small animals, it's your responsibility to train them properly and pay attention so everyone stays safe. Now here's a little bonus secret. Mustang horses are actually more likely than domestic breeds to stomp or strike at dogs. Keep this in mind if you're adopting a Mustang or if you're riding with folks who have a Mustang. Now myth number 3 is one that could cost you thousands in vet bills if you don't pay attention. And this myth is that mules never colic or get sick. This myth is a particularly dangerous one. Mules share the same digestive system as horses, which means they absolutely can colic or get sick. Colic, a term for abdominal pain, is one of the most common health issues in equines, and it can happen from gas, impaction, or sudden diet changes. Equine digestive systems are designed to process a steady, small intake of forage. When this balance is disrupted, say by feeding too much grain or potentially hay with mold or dust in it, problems can arise really quickly. Now, don't let that fool you. Mules do have increased hardiness due to what is called hybrid vigor. And we've found that our mules tend to have fewer unplanned vet visits compared with some horses that we've owned. But they are not immune to colic. Good care and management are key to keeping any equine healthy. But myth number 2 is the one that causes a lot of people to be afraid of mules. And that is, mules are revengeful. And this one's based on a total misunderstanding of how mule brains work. This is actually my least favorite myth on the whole list. Have you ever heard someone say a mule will wait 10 years to kick you in the head? Total nonsense. Equines don't actually have the brain structure to be able to hold grudges. They lack a developed prefrontal cortex, which means they can't experience emotions such as revenge. If a mule does react negatively, it's out of fear, pain, or lack of understanding, not spite. Here's the truth. If you cause your mule stress, pain, or fear every time you come around, it makes sense that the mule starts associating you with negativity. But that's not revenge. That's just basic conditioning. Equines live in the moment and they react to what's happening in the environment right now. Now this myth bothers me because it causes people to fear mules. And I think it was originally started by people who are hard on their equines and can't take responsibility for their own actions. It must be the mule's fault, right? It couldn't be the fault of the handler. Now there's a saying, a horse is a mirror to your soul. And this definitely holds true with mules too, but the mirror might just be a little bit clearer. Now finally, coming in at myth number 1, the most commonly held myth about mules, and that is, mules are stubborn. This one is a total myth, and it's a reputation that follows mules everywhere. Mules get a bad rap for being stubborn, but the reality is they have a highly developed sense of self-preservation. If they perceive something as dangerous, they'll refuse to do it. That's not stubbornness, it's just intelligence. Here's what most people don't understand. Horses are much easier to spur on or whip into action, but mules will often shut down completely when pushed too hard. You need to work with your mule, not against it, and help it find the right answer. Now the best saying I've ever heard on this topic, mules aren't stubborn, people are just impatient. Mules do often need a little extra time to process situations. If you allow them that time and treat them fairly, they'll amaze you with their loyalty, work ethic, willingness, and try. People who tend to be hard on their equines may find that those tactics don't work well when it comes to convincing a mule that all is safe in the world. You need patience, understanding, and consistency. But here's what happens when you get it right, and this is why we love our mules. They'll become incredibly loyal partners who will go anywhere and do anything for you. Our mules have carried us through hundreds of miles of treacherous mountain trails, never once giving up, even when conditions were pretty brutal. So there you have it, the top 7 myths about mules. Mules are smart, capable, and loyal companions, and we wouldn't trade ours for the world. If you have any more myths that we missed, drop them in the comments. We may do a part 2 of this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe to see more mule, horse, and mountain living content.